Today we have a special guest, Professor Roland Verner, coming from Marburg, Germany. He is a Lutheran priest and also a theologian. He has an experience in doing various research and translation projects from Oriental and Semitic languages. And we're speaking today about the role and the importance of interreligious dialogue in Europe. I would like to start having this vast experience working and visiting many countries that were religiously diverse. Where do you see the place of interreligious dialogue in culturally and religiously pluralist society, and how can you relate this situation to the present situation of Europe and immigrants coming from different countries?
Thank you very much. I think that the natural tendency of any group that is in power is to dominate a culture. So if you have a strongly Christian culture, they will have a tendency to dominate. If you have a strongly Muslim culture, they will also tend to dominate, and even if you have an atheistic culture. So to dialogue means to accept each other as equals. This is the beginning. And when we look back in history, we see that this was not natural in the West or in the East. Often some of the wars that were fought were also religious wars, or at least people used religion to fight the wars or to rationalize the wars. And after the Reformation in the West, there were the big 30-year war between Catholics and Protestants. And at the end of that, people realized that there must be another way. There must be a separation of church and state, and that we must accept each other's differences in order to live in peace. So this does not devalue religion, but it takes religion out of this combination of power and state, and frees individual religion and also the individual conviction of people to follow their own understanding and their own faith. And as you ask about poorer nations, I see that it really depends on what is the prevailing situation, and mostly one must say that countries, for example in Southern Africa, where there is a traditional religious background and a lot of Christian influence, or the majority of the people have become Christians, that there tends to be more tolerance than in northern African countries where Islam is the dominant religion. So in our time, it seems, especially in those poorer countries, that those countries that have a larger Christian community tend to be more dominant. So I would think that in those countries, in especially Africa, where there is a larger Christian community, that those countries tend to be more tolerant. But of course, there is no guarantee. Jesus called people to follow him, to take up their cross, not to fight against others, but to love the neighbor. So we see, as we look back in the history, the idea of religious tolerance arose especially in the Christian countries, and the Evangelical Alliance in its original founding in England in 1840s, 1855, was based on the idea of promoting religious liberty. This was especially because the free churches were often dominated by the state churches, be it Catholic, be it Lutheran, or be it Orthodox. So they wanted to promote freedom of religion. And now, of course, this is a common good in all the world, so that's good. But still, even as Christians, we have to make sure that we are following our own principles.
So do you see that the level of interreligious dialogue between Christians is not on the, let's say, high level? Do you see the need to be more connected with other Christian communities in present day Europe?
Sorry, we can cut here, I think. Europe is very diverse. When you go to the West, the secular climate is prevalent. So we are fighting in some countries even for the right to keep our faith in the public sphere. We don't want to dominate, but we want to at least have the right to say, carry a cross or to say that we are Christians. When you come to some of the Eastern countries, maybe with a strong Orthodox background, maybe it is a different story. I cannot say so much about that. So I think it is very diverse, but we always need to learn. So and learning it comes when we look each other in the eyes. So when we start speaking directly to one another. Now I see dialogue on two levels. There's often this very official high-level dialogue, which is of course necessary, but it leaves people untouched. It doesn't really reach the people in a church or in a mosque or in a synagogue. So what we need is to create opportunities of encounter on a local level, to invite each other. And I know this from some African countries where Christianity and Islam are mixed in the population, that the Muslims will go to the Christian Christmas or Easter celebrations to their neighbors and congratulate them, and they will sit together and have some tea. And then the Christians will also go to the Muslim big feast like Prophet Muhammad's birthday and congratulate their Muslim neighbors. So there is in some of those countries a tradition which we can learn from in the West, because in the West we are like clashing much more at the moment. People are afraid, but this fear will only go away as we meet face to face on a local level. And to create opportunities for that, I think is especially possible for churches, for church communities, whatever their tradition is.
And now we can see also the role of faith-based organizations, especially in the current migrant crisis. A lot of people from this grassroots level are engaged in integration, inclusion programs, and also not only humanitarian level. I think that InterReligious Dialogue is also taking place on this not official, but this grassroots level between organizations and people working, collaborating. So do you think that these growing negative stereotypes and Islamophobia in Europe and everything that is happening now can be, in a way, in the future, can be solved through this joint collaboration that can exist between local communities, maybe local religious, faith-based organizations? And where do you see the place of InterReligious Dialogue in that sense?
Sorry. I agree 100% with what you are saying, and I think it is often unnoticed what people do on the grassroots level, especially in teaching German, for example, in my country, to migrants, in taking students into their homes and so forth. And it is happening, and it's often people who have a Christian faith who do that. So there's also people of goodwill who are not Christians who also do that, but we can see a strong emphasis of this in the churches, and especially now that the big migration, which was in 2015, is over. There was a big hype in Germany, oh, let's help them, let's help them. But of course, with every help, there is also some disappointments. You help people and then you don't feel that they are grateful, or they don't appreciate, or they take it for granted. And so we see that many people who were very much involved in this in the early maybe months or 1 or 2 years are now getting tired. So the question is, how can we find a consistent way of doing this? And how can we also see the migrants not only as objects of our charity, but also expect from them. In German we say fordern and fördern, so to help them and to support them, but also to expect from them. So, and I think people will only find real value and find that they are valued if they can also contribute. So let's not have this top-down kind of we help you, you're the poor ones, we're the rich ones, but let us see what can we bring together to the table. And so I think this is an antidote against the Islamophobia which you mentioned. On the other hand, there is a reality that which people say, yes, but their crime has risen, there is more uncertainty for women, women's rights aren't respected as much anymore. And I think for the long run, for integration to work is that we have to also expect from the new immigrants to adapt to our values, which are equality of men and women and so forth. And so if, say, a female social worker tries to help some immigrant and he is not even willing to shake her hand because he thinks that his kind of understanding of his religion prevents him from shaking the hands of a woman because she's a woman, then of course that's not helpful. So there has to be an adaptation and a learning from each other.
Thank you so much for your
very
valuable
much.
answers.
Thank
and
you.
I'm looking forward to see you in Serbia again.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward.
Možeš da zaustaviš.
Thank you very much.